introductions, and we'll just begin, if you don't mind, with Rick or Amin, and tell us what's happening.
Dr. Skip Friedman here to represent the Abrahamic tradition of the Jewish third. This is my friend Dr. Amin Ramsey, who is the instigator of the initiator, I should say. I was an emergency doctor for.
Where are you located?
Well, I'm here, but I don't work in the ER anymore. 36 years was enough.
You're here in Portland.
I'm here in Portland. Yeah. And Dr. Ramsey was the head of the trauma service over at Legacy until he too decided that enough was enough. And his gray hair was gaining the ascendancy, and he decided to stop.
I'm Lane Oxley from John Knox Presbyterian in Kaiser. And I have to say, Madam Moderator is from our church.
Oh, is she? Okay.
I'm Jean Martin, and I live in Tigard, but I'm from the Tualatin Presbyterian Church, so southwest suburbs. And I just was kind of intrigued by this idea.
Me too. Did you say Kaiser? You live in Kaiser?
Tigard.
Tigard, like you guys that didn't think they lived in Kaiser.
All right. Yeah, I'm John Shuck, and both of you were at the presentation I did yesterday about the film from the trip to Iraq for Abrahamic with Musa Al-Balami who's coming. So we have a good relationship with the Islamic Center of Portland, the Imam Mahdi Center, just right across the street from the church. It's the only Shia Islamic center in Oregon. And so it was a great opportunity. Last year I went to Iraq and I participated in the largest walk in the world, annual walk of 20 million people walking to the shrine of Imam Hussein, who is the grandson of the Prophet Muhammad. And so that thing has really picked up, and it's quite an incredible movement of peace. We've had a relationship with the Islamic Center when we were first, about a year after, for Ramadan, we some students there, many of them were medical students, and then they felt that one young woman, Sadaf, said she called up every Muslim she knew in the community here in Portland area to have a Ramadan tent project. This is something that happens in London, in which the fast is broken at Ramadan in a non-Muslim space, so in either a public space or another faith tradition space, in order to be able to communicate and break down stereotypes and whatnot. And so they brought it to the United States, and this was the first one, and it was in our backyard, right back here. So for 3 days, we broke the fast together, had different speeches and whatnot. So it was really an exciting opportunity with the Islamic Center. So I'm very much in favor of anything we can do to build ecumenical relationships. We're having a Thanksgiving service of our own, again with the Islamic Center on next Saturday. And we've celebrated, for example, the birthdays of the Prophet. And we've also had, on a couple of occasions, folks from Jewish Voice for Peace come and connect as well with the three of us. And then there's another Presbyterian church around the corner, which is a PCA church, and they've also interacted as well with the mosques.
PCA.
The PCA is Presbyterian Church of America. It's a different denomination from Presbyterian Church USA. Historically, I guess you could say it's more traditional, theologically, kind of like the difference perhaps between Orthodox and Reformed, something like that. Yeah, so there are about 12 different Presbyterian denominations in the United States. Most people don't even know 12 Presbyterians, but you know, we find a reason to divide over various things. So when this topic came up, I thought this would be a great thing. Honestly, I was hoping to have a bigger group, but as it turned out, we were 2 or 3 gathered, I say. So, okay.
Can you two move closer?
Sure.
I have a slight hearing loss.
Sure. Oh, sure, yes. He's got to run the computer, but he can go a little bit closer.
Thank you.
Will this be okay?
Yeah.
Well, thank you for giving me the opportunity to present some ideas. We know that Thanksgiving is not worldwide, it's really only American, having started somewhere around the Civil War. Most people, or many people, focus Thanksgiving on family and food and feasts and watching football. In addition to those things, I think faith is an important part of Thanksgiving. And several years ago, I thought we should start Abrahamic Thanksgiving. I call it Abrahamic Thanksgiving because Abraham is the person who is common to all three faiths. All three faiths recognize Abraham. And we need to figure out a way for all three faiths to respect and recognize one another. Despite the fact that the faiths may be different in many ways, they can all give thanks. They can all share the worship of God. And if we could get them to all respect one another's faiths, that would be beneficial. So the clergy obviously are going to be a rabbi, a pastor, and an imam. These symbols are ones that we haven't used. Some people like Star of David rather than this one, but they all work, and the crescent you see. And I've had Muslims say to me, now, why do we use that? It's not my decision. that's the imam choice. During the service, I think there are some general patterns that can be used. It's helpful to introduce those and welcome those who arrived. And when we do that, I acknowledge the fact that those who are Jewish or Muslim may be uncomfortable coming to a Christian church. It may be very new and uncomfortable. And I particularly want them to we want to make them comfortable and feel safe. We have the three clergy preaching, and we also have music by all three faiths this year. We have an organist who is a Christian who works as an organist. And this year we're having a Jewish musician and a Muslim musician. Both of them are going to play guitar and sing during the service. Any church or group of churches can schedule as they wish. My bias is I think it should be Thanksgiving morning or Wednesday Thanksgiving, because that's as close as possible to the religious event. Many people don't like those days or those nights because of things that they want to do. So they prefer Sunday evenings, Monday evenings, Tuesday evenings. That's all possibilities. Where should this be done? My goal is to try to encourage Abrahamic Thanksgiving services to be done in communities throughout the country for a number of reasons. And if we can start in the Pacific Northwest, I think that would be helpful. I've had communications with pastors in other states who are working towards starting this next year. Why should there be services throughout the country? One reason is, again, for recognition and respect. I think that's important. And another reason is to hope to decrease the horrors. It was about a year ago when 17 people were shot at the synagogue in Pittsburgh, and 11 died. That needs to change. This is closing of service at Southminster Presbytery. This is the flyer that we made, and I can give you a couple of those.
So is that the church that you worship with?
Yes, yes. That's why I started it there.
Okay.
And we've done it, this is our fourth time. And it's likely that next year, the rabbi who's been here several times would like to conduct it at her synagogue, so we'll probably shift to there.
So it's changed.
So we'll keep doing that. And I'm open to any questions or comments you may have. And put my email there just if you have other discussions you want to have, or if you want a few, if you want me to send you middle of these, I'm glad to do that.
It was interesting. We had an interfaith gathering at Galal Mosque, and at that time, one of the persons wanted to do a song, and music is not good in the mosque. So it was really something. It was interesting when you talked about music, because music for many Muslims is not a thing that is part of their faith or their tradition. In fact, you don't have music in prayer services or anything like that. So I was wondering, I was curious how that worked out.
This, well, in the past we've done Thanksgiving hymns. And the ones that we picked out would not have specific Christian mention. They were universal Thanksgiving hymns. This year, the recommendation came up for having music by other faiths, and the imam told me, I know a good guitarist who can come and do this. I said, okay. So
That's fascinating. That'd be interesting if Musin is able to come to talking about it, because it's when it's in the mosque itself. That is usually obviously they'll come to worship and we sing and stuff like that. It's not an issue. It's within the mosque for that aspect.
I did not know that.
Yeah, and that's a good thing to know, because that was really a tense moment when they wanted to do this singing, and the imam was like, I know we don't do that here, and so it was a great interfaith learning. And so that, but when you're obviously having it at a synagogue or having it at a church, then that issue would apply. And there may be different realms within Islam itself, as you mentioned, which would be these playing guitar. It's interesting.
I recently attended services in synagogues and mosques, and that's been very educational for me.
Yeah.
I'm sorry that we started early.
You did not start early. I've attended 3 others.
Okay.
I knew I was coming in late.
Oh, great.
So tell us again why you call it the, so you say Abrahamic Thanksgiving.
I call it Abrahamic Thanksgiving because, in my mind, it provides the connection between the three. It identifies a common belief that since all three faiths recognize Abraham as a person who is part of their faith. So that's why I made the term.
So it is a created term of yours and not to the best of your knowledge.
Pretty
In other words, you haven't
widely
Googled it.
recognized.
If somebody else had it, I just didn't know that.
I did come in late, so this is where you're going to see my lack of understanding on what you said before I came. I'm Christine, and I'm from Westminster Presbytery in Salem. And years ago, we'll make it 10 years ago because I can't really remember how many years ago, we used to have yearly multi-denominational services. We had them on the Wednesday before Thanksgiving, but we did have various Christian and non-Christian churches, but we did not, it wasn't just Abrahamic. We also had other Hindu, et cetera, come together. And we moved from house of worship to house of worship. So when you're at ours, when you're at the synagogue, when you're at the synagogue, it's something that fell to the wayside. Why? I don't know. It was when I had children. much attention. I did pay to it. But is that similar to what I just described? Is that similar to what you do on the Sunday services?
It's similar in a general sense.
Okay.
I specifically was trying to connect the three monotheistic faiths.
Mm-hmm.
I have heard of, I've spoken to pastors and priests in other places that do complex, multiple faiths. Some of them very, very small groups. And I'm not opposed to that. I just feel very strongly about these three because of, well, I happen to think that there's a God for all three. And even though we don't say this publicly, I happen to think it's the same God. That's my personal belief. And I think these three need to be much more constructive. These are the three that occasionally attack one another.
Attack one another and are often pitted against one another by outside forces. I want to say that too, that oftentimes, many places for 1,000 years, Jews, Christians, Muslims have lived together in community. For example, throughout the Middle East. But it has often been, since political developments come, or one group that ends up often dividing them. And so I just wanted to throw that in too, that it's sometimes the divisions and the violence that we might see isn't necessarily all just religion ideology. It's also that political ideology of dividing people along and making schisms in that way. But yeah, I think you're exactly right, that if we can get these three Abrahamic faiths that are fairly dominant when you think about the population throughout the world, to find their unity and to find their connection, and there are so many similarities that we really have religiously. There's more about the mother of Jesus, Mary, in the Quran than there is in the New Testament, for example. So there's connections in which we use other texts to talk about our own, and I think there's really some fun interplay within their text, the holy texts that we use that interact, that are positive rather than oppositional.
Yeah, your talk that you did yesterday, it really opened my understanding, and I've always just thought the Quran was useless. But now I'm going to read it. I think it was really invaluable.
Something you said that needs another connection. You mentioned political divide that created division. So that's something that came from the past that we're fighting against now, history. Maybe the recent past, depending on which one you're talking about. But we're also, I think, in today's world and into the future, fighting, and this is possibly the wrong word, but having to work against agnostic and atheistic belief and acceptance of that division. You understand what I'm saying? So many people are getting their messages, of course, from current media, from, call it what you will, from wherever it is, from current media, and therefore don't have the religious background or the religious study to counter that. And to say, well, it doesn't have to be that way. It isn't always that way. It wasn't always that way. So yes, we're fighting the past, what we imposed on the people, but then we're fighting the current knowledge that's out there too.
Or lack of knowledge.
Or lack of knowledge. Well, those people think they're knowledgeable, so we think it's lack of knowledge, but they think they've got the answer. But it's like, well, what do we do? But we have to fight both of them to bring this together and to heal the divide, so to speak.
And the stereotypes, right, that we get in. And what this does is you actually bring actual human beings together. And we recognize that our faith, from our perspective, really is a beautiful thing. And it's made for peace and for love. And the humanity has been enriched. But stereotypes, however they make the cause of them, so it serves to kind of, well, ours is good, but yours isn't. And this very act of breaking bread together and sharing honest differences, as well as recognizing a lot of similarities. was a powerful way.
And we are all children of God.
Yeah.
Not everybody accepts that.
So we see this worship service on Sunday, November 24th. Would you tell us a little bit about the worship service that Thanksgiving that you are holding?
Well, in our case, it just happened to be, it isn't a three-way, it's only the two. Just because that just has happened that the two of us, so it's the Islamic Center. And what we're going to do is, it's a potluck, and we're going to, which is a challenge, because this is a good learning opportunity, because, again, halal meat is not meat that is, Muslims are not allowed to eat non-halal meat, and halal meat is how it's prepared, how it's killed. In just ways. And so the Christians are bringing vegetarian dish. So that way we can share all of our food together. So those little things that we work out. If it's halal, but if Christians are bringing it, it's not, you're getting it in Safeway, it's not likely going to be. So those are some of the things you got to work through a little bit. And
If you're going to share a meal together.
yeah, if you're going to share a meal together, you got to share a meal that they can eat. And so all we're going to do is that Imam Muslim is going to talk about Thanksgiving, what he means, and I'll talk about Thanksgiving, and we'll just, and then we'll share it together. But that's it. And we have had in the past, we just didn't get it for this one. Ned Roche, I don't know if that name's familiar, but he's a member of Jewish Voice for Peace, often comes and connects with us too.
Do you have a worship service as
No,
part
it's not a
of this?
worship service, it's mostly just a
shared
presentation. Yeah, it's not really a worship service that we have, it's really a panel discussion. And often we've had them over at the mosque or the Islamic Center that way too. Panel discussion. But although what is going to happen is that they are going to come and lead prayer. And so at 5 o'clock, they are going to lead prayer, and we can participate in whatever level you like to. I like to participate in it, but some people can just do that or watch or so that, I guess that would be worship.
I've got a question about the worship service that you do, the three-way worship service. This is my first
Which
time.
group is this?
This is Abrahamic faith.
Oh, good.
This
Come on
is my
in.
first Presbytery, so what I'm listening to is all.
Yeah, I'm hoping I don't know.
information to me. And with this idea that worship
Be right back.
is changing, understandably. There are many more options to how we worship, whether it's discussion, whether it's within the service, the worship service, many more options that we have. In light of that changing reality we have, are you Presbyterian? I'm sorry, did I ask that? But then,
Westminster Presbyterian Board.
okay, so you are affiliated with that. I realized that's where that service was held, but of course, coming in late, I didn't know who you were in relation to it. So what sort of service do you, the Christian pastor, bring to this Abrahamic Thanksgiving? Do you bring a very traditional service in our Presbyterian church, or do you bring a contemporary, or how do you build that? What works for you?
What works for this service?
Yes.
Can I give you a brief description as to how we do it?
Sure. That would give me an answer, probably.
After people have been seated and everybody finishes playing, preceding music, I welcome people. And sometimes I specifically tell the Jews and Muslims, don't feel uncomfortable coming here because you might, just because coming to a Christian church when you're in a different faith, I'm really comfortable. I start by saying, Shalom, welcome, Salam Alaikum. And after making a few welcoming comments, I introduce the rabbi, and then the pastor, and then the imam. And I intentionally do that in that sequence, and I intentionally ask them to be seated in that sequence, because that's the sequence that the face came about. I think there's value in keeping consistent with that. In the church that I attend, after the pastor, not at this, but at a routine service, gives opening comments, the pastor typically says, may the peace of Christ be with you all. And then they say, and also with you. I've changed it to this. I say, may the peace of God be with you all. And then people are encouraged to be one another. And then each clergy is asked to speak for about 5 to 7 minutes. And then there's music in between. This year, each clergy will speak 5 to 7 minutes. And I'm hoping that after the rabbi, then the Jewish musician will play. And just before the Muslim imam, the Muslim musician will play. And then closing.
Okay.
So that gives you a
Sure.
sense.
That gives me an idea. It also tells me it's similar to the one that was to a Presbytery. And it's similar, kind of similar layout. It's exactly like that. And it was very uniquely different than the traditional Sunday services that was there. You know, the doxology and the reading, all those things.
Right.
So, all the traditional cares and offerings, or cares and cares and praises, all of that is dropped from this evening service, your service. You brought a second question. When you said, I thought you feel safe being, do you do anything to add security to the site when you bring individuals who have been targeted elsewhere?
It's interesting that you asked that question. And my answer is no. We have not had those security application. We had worries and concerns and thought, well, the very first time we did it, I thought, if somebody could come here and do something like that. And I did a little worry, but we did not have. I've noticed that whenever I go to a synagogue, there's always somebody outside there.
Exactly, that's my word.
And that's not always, but yesterday when I was at a synagogue, it was not a big security person. It was a small young guy. But it was somebody. So to answer your question, no, I haven't done security, and I hope the situation does not come about which makes me wish I was smart enough to do that.
Folks are not looking down in the rearview mirror wishing you had. I understand, but yeah, it's from synagogue, from any service without synagogue that I that I first became aware of. Because yes, they train their members, the Jewish worshipers, I'm misusing that word, to watch and to greet in a very different way than we train our leaders. And I noticed that because they are vigilant on watching whenever they open the doors to the synagogue. And that's what, and then I wonder, what you said, or not when you feel safe here is, and we're asking you to come into a space where we don't provide the same security that you provide in your home house of worship. And I'm not saying that's wrong, I'm just saying it's food for thought. It's something I brought up at session before, just in general, should we do more?
I'm not sure if I actually say I hope you all feel safe, but I think I say something like I hope you all feel welcome.
Well, no, yes.
Yeah, like that.
To avoid that worry,
Yeah.
make a little worry like what's going to happen around that.
Most of the synagogues have the same security person every week. And I mean, a formal security person. And to be honest, it's done by profiling. I'm looking at any synagogue anywhere where I've not been seen before, and nobody's going to think twice about it. Somebody who looks different is going to get looked at hard. And
Much of it is by profiling, but I've also attended at the synagogue a presentation by our host, Captain, who is in charge of the SWAT team. training. What should you do? And to prepare for it, and what should you do if you are? I mean, he speaks about, it's not the profile, and it's like, know your exit, know how to get out.
Oh, that's when something bad happens.
That's when something bad happens, you know.
Screen.
But the first step is put people in the parking lot and just make sure that there's a presence in the parking lot. Because if there's a presence in the parking lot, you won't have the opportunity to be an individual with malintent will not have the opportunity necessarily to get out of the car and say, welcome, come to the service. It's almost like Walmart greeter then, keeping slippage from happening. So it's an interesting thought, and as we open our doors to more, I'm not saying we shouldn't open our doors, but how do we make everyone feel welcome when others put their guard?
I get it. Sometimes, I don't know. When we had the Ramadan tent project out here, and it was very public, and there was a call to prayer, turned on the microphone, and we did have police present, the young Muslim students, said that and let them know that, the Beaverton to walk by or whatever. But, and there were some rednecks in the community that were upset. They thought this call to prayer was a call to war, okay? So part of the deal is education, and sometimes you just gotta go out there and do it. And so I'm very proud of our the Islamic Center. I mean, they are definitely targeted people in many ways, and so and yet they gotta live your life. and I think these services can. This very thing you're doing is the thing that can help stop that. That kind of thing. The more we do it, the more we get comfortable in that, the better we are for society. So there's always a risk when you do some good things. But it doesn't mean that we don't want to be safe. We did, and I don't know what it is like in Portland, but I mean the Beaverton police are obviously really good. In terms of.
And they know to make their presence known.
Yeah,
Not
they're just coming, they just stay out here. Yeah, they're just there. In fact, they'll park every now and then when there's threats happening. They'll park over at there's a car, or even sometimes there's even an empty car over at the parking lot there. This is Margaret.
Anything we can fill you in on?
Oh, I'm sure a lot. I know quite a bit, but I know that I don't know everything by any means. It's been my experience that all of these contacts kind of build so that you get more comfortable with the differences and you begin to understand about the similarities. And I was raised that with the Jews, we were religious cousins. We didn't know that much about Muslims. And I'm happy that finally in my life I've had an opportunity to begin to understand more about Muslims. And it's personal discipline when you're behaving yourself so that you don't offend Muslims. I don't always know that, but you try to do the best you can. I think we have to have all sorts of variety of contact, and it's new to a lot of us. But I didn't understand about the Abrahamic, the Thanksgiving tradition, was it? I really didn't know what that was all about.
Okay, well that's and he was talking about. Is there anything? Abraham, tell again, if you don't mind.
But I had trouble hearing you.
Oh, I'm sorry. I termed it Abrahamic Thanksgiving because Abraham is recognized by all three faiths, so that's why.
Oh, yes. He gets a lot put on him, but it allows us to cooperate with one another. Yeah, I think it's wonderful. So that was a handle sort of thing that you were dealing with.
Handle.
We didn't understand.
I'm trying to think of help me out, John.
Well, that's it. Yes, that is the language we're using to draw this Thanksgiving thing to Abraham is the handler. The framing,
Okay,
yes.
there you go. Framing, that's better. Does that make sense then? Thank you.
One of the things that's kind of fun, I've used before during Advent. In fact, we had a sheikh who came and spoke when I went on my tour with in Iraq. And he came back, and it was the Sunday that we talked about Mary. And so he preached a sermon on Mary in the Quran. And Mary in the Quran is a beautiful, oh, there's Imam Hussein.
Hello, everybody. Sorry we were wasting here.
The time had changed, and Yusuf, good to see you, good to see you.
And Jack told us it is in room number 7. Nice one. Thank you. Thank you, Sheikh.
Warming it up for you. Maybe, but
God bless you.
thank you.
Sorry to... Thank you.
You're not,
Sorry to interrupt your gathering.
you're not interrupting at all. We're waiting for you. I'm so sorry. We got confused. The meeting started earlier, and I was waiting for you to come. I had anything to watch for you.
Yeah, we were waiting outside because we noticed the meeting is not what we were looking for. Anyway, thank you.
So, this is Imam Muhsin Al-Dalami. He is the Imam at the Islamic Center of Portland, the Imam Mahdi Center. And this is Yusuf Al-Khalil, and he's on the board there, and as well as on,
And Wolves.
You were, okay. But he's also, and Yusuf helped us in organizing for the month of for Muharram, first 13 days, our congregation was transformed into a place to be able to honor the Prophet, or honor Imam Hussein.
A real representation of interfaith.
Yeah.
They were so kind enough to allow us to use the facilities here.
This is Dr. Amin Ramzi, who's really presenting the idea of the Islamic, or the Abrahamic faith tradition. And this is Dr. Skip. So, and this is this is our associate pastor, Don Ludwig. So, now I guess we keep going. Or how can we catch up? What can we do now to catch us all up?
What do you suggest?
So, well, can you just give a little summary again of what you're doing?
Several years ago, we began an Abrahamic Thanksgiving service. Am I speaking loud enough?
Not quite.
I'm sorry.
Why don't you come in a little closer?
Yeah, that's right. But I do have new hearing aids, and I'm hearing a lot better, so I'm happy.
Several years ago, we started an Abrahamic Thanksgiving service. And I suggested we term that because Abraham is identified by all three monotheists of faith. We have Rabbi, Reverend, and an Imam all speaking for about 5 to 7 minutes each. And we have some music in the process. We don't do any offerings during the service.
How about dancing? You are taking the excitement for it. Just so
I don't think we've done dancing. And my personal goal is to try to extend this custom in communities throughout the country. Part of my reason for doing that is I think that Jews, Christians, and Muslims need to respect one another and understand one another better. And somehow we need to eliminate the violence that takes place between those faiths.
So, what is your experience with interfaith?
Well,
Can you talk a little bit about that?
if I may interject,
Yes.
I would like to say, first of all, the violence not real between the real Christian, the real Jews, the real Muslims. It's coming, unfortunately, from so-called extremist and radical issues. Because as you know, and everybody aware, actually, the Muslims, in particular the Shia, are the most victims of the radicalized so-called ISIS or Al-Qaeda and so on, so whether in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in Syria, and so on and so forth. Same thing in Syria where the Christians being driven out of that. Just to make this, but actually this is a great idea. And we've been in, at least our center, some couple Islamic center, we've been in interfaith meeting with Senegal here and some other churches. It is such a great idea. But this is kind of a project for local, hopefully to separate. Is that what you're hoping for?
A project for local.
I mean, locally to start in, let's say, metropolitan area of Portland and hoping to spread it more. Okay.
And I think ideally, it would be, in a perfect world, I think there would be an Abrahamic Thanksgiving service in all 4 sections of Portland. Northeast, northwest, southeast,
Yes.
southwest. That would be
Okay, now I see what you're getting at now. A real centralized and communicated, here's where to go. So we have one now in the Northeast at Westminster Presbyterian, or your areas there.
How long has that gone? Is this the first year?
No, this year it'll be the 4th year.
Fourth year?
It started in 2016.
Okay.
And I also think it's both constructive and fine for the services to be moved to all 3 faiths. It doesn't have to be the Christian church every time.
Yeah.
Right.
And what challenges might that bring if it were in a different place? For example, as a church, as opposed to an Islamic center, as opposed to a synagogue. What challenges might that bring to the local place of things we can do and cannot, or should not do?
I think it will be that the discussions among the clergy and representatives from all 3 faiths will have to have candid discussions about, is it okay or not okay to have music in your facility? Are there other functions that should or should not be done?
Or how to greet one another, for example, members of opposite sex, that would just happen.
Yeah, just one little thing, I have to shake his hand and he says, we don't shake women.
And I must confess to you,
It's
I know that
the kind
there's,
of thing that we need to know.
I've come across Muslim women before who do not shake hands. I didn't know that Muslim men don't shake hands with women, so that's, I think, specific.
But we have an Hispanic church that meets in our building, and their men don't shake hands with women. And they're Christian.
Yeah.
So, it's, you know,
I think it depends on how you work your religion and how you are tied to your faith too much or less. So then it's happening if you shake hands or not. It depends on your faith side. If you want to be tied to your faith or just to be an open-minded and maybe people like refuse to be open-minded and leave your faith alone. So you can be faithful guy and at the same time open-minded. So respectful guy has respect, understand your religion, your thinking, your faith. Doesn't that means that I obey everything if I want to do this? Maybe
So what he was trying to say, be assured you are safe even you're not get a hug from him.
you gotta be careful of those weird men.
I've got a question. When you talk about accommodation we make and differences in our services as we move from shop worship to house worship. And this, I don't know, so.
You have Oh, I'm sorry, yeah. Because we hosted the congregation and our center one that was we hosted.
Just to put your mind that
If we hosted a service in your mosque, would our, what is it then? Would you need something?
Usually, That's only restricted when we do our Friday service. And the separation is not really as a separation per se, but yeah, ladies feel more comfortable being sitting in one side than sitting in the other side. But when we serve the food or breaking place, actually it's a mixed gathering. And we try to hopefully people will mix really from different congregations, so they will come to know each other as the aims of this or such kind of government establish and to achieve.
I understand why you're doing that, and I can appreciate that, but let me ask the question this way. Would it be more, and this is an assumption we have to make, would it be more comfortable for your congregation if you chose to sit as you sit on the Friday service?
Not necessarily. I mean, the setting, it will be there. When we have the main hall like the sanctuary, it's already set that this way. Usually the ladies will congregate with ladies and men, gentlemen comes to the other side. But it is an open area. It's not like really totally separate. You may encounter kind of more restrict than some other, let's say, mosque or another centers, depending on what the school of thought they follow and how much they restrict about. But yeah, usually young ladies, we don't give them hugs, so you are safe.
But one of the things is that you just let it happen. I mean, for example, what I've learned along the way is that I don't extend it, and sometimes Muslim women will shake a hand. It's up to them. From my perspective, I just let them make the choice.
That's what I'm trying to explain. It's,
Right.
Depends on you. You are want to do it or not. You want to just follow the real religious, or just you can. Sometimes you are just applied little and little you didn't apply. But that doesn't mean that I don't respect you. I respect you and I give you more respect from my side. I just apply my religion, how to they look to the other gender.
I'd like to,
No, please.
I'd like to give a shout out to for the care of shy people. I talk a lot, but I'm basically shy going into a new situation. And like you're gathering with the children for the congregation, where they get to practice things. I would be most comfortable just practicing the kinds of things that are expected, would be expected of me. And also, it gets one's attention when you know you're being scrutinized from the standpoint of security going into places. All of that is very, very important. And I think sometimes we need to be treated as children in an amusing kind of way, to just practice a bit, because your muscles need to learn how to do these sorts of things. And not that you would be perfect at it, and as you say, you go with the flow. But if you have a little bit of a repertoire, it's helpful. At least I found it helpful.
I like your idea of practicing it, and not to beat a dead horse here, but back to the sitting separate and such. If we take that to a broader perspective, I think we have to protect ourselves from being so hospitable and so welcoming that, oh no, you don't have to do that. I know we usually take our shoes off in my house, but when you come to my house, I'll just leave your shoes off. We're being so caring to the accommodating that we're losing who we are. Does that make sense? And maybe that in coming together, we shouldn't be rigid, of course, but we should stay a little bit more true to who we are, so that we, the visitor, can experience that who we are. I also have to just say one thing about this. When you did this, it made me smile, because you know, in the Catholic Church, if you go up to accept communion and you're not word is the wrong word, and we're not properly prepared to accept communion, you do this.
Actually, I experienced this since I was here since 2010. And it is just, some days it's strange, some days was upset, some days just respect this one and understand it. But
It's
this is
very easy.
who's me.
Well, it's wonderful, but it just made me smile because I immediately thought of the priest.
I just want to say something about, I go to the Islamic Center every now and then. I try to go on Fridays when I can and participate. And the thing is that I don't know at all what I'm doing. But the thing is that the site is so gracious, it doesn't matter. I can go and be myself, and I'm incredibly loved there. And I think that experience of, you make it awkward, but you learn as you go, and how to relate and how to engage. And I think sometimes we get a little worried if we're not doing it right or offending or something like that. And sometimes I think the bigger goal is just go ahead and do it and be yourself and connect in those ways you
There's a
can.
variety of people.
Sure.
But I say but anyway, you have established yourself as a person who is open. And that is helpful, I'm sure, to the people there, because they know how to respond to you.
Well, they'll respond that way to everyone.
Well, yeah, I know that.
It's
I know
just,
that.
you have
Yeah.
extended yourself and allowed yourselves to get to know each other. And that's the issue for all of us, is just finding some way to actually learn about another person. Just the opportunity, creates that opportunity.
And this is an ideal opportunity
Great
that
way to do it.
Dr. is bringing to us about this Abrahamic Thanksgiving service. It's a nice template that we can use to be able to do that.
Have you been surprised at some of what turns out to be very special, not that you thought of it ahead of time, but in the worship? Have there been times where you just knew everyone was together? Do you understand what I'm saying? No? Yeah, well,
You're asking about what neat surprises that you've experienced that you didn't know.
in worship.
I haven't had any negative surprises in worship. The presentations by all three clergy have been just remarkably positive and encouraging. Matt, can I ask you a question, Bert?
Please.
I think, I understand what you said about the violence is less involved with religious people and more with extreme people. I still have the hope that if there is a better relationship among religious people, that will have a positive effect.
Definitely, and that's actually what's happening in most of the Middle East and at least in Europe and United States government. 2 years ago when the sectarians, unfortunately, rift started in Iraq, our great Grand Ayatollah, which is represent the highest religious, he said, don't call the other people who are different from you as your brothers. They are your own selves. He wanted to establish such connection. He said, call them yourselves. How do you try the best not to harm yourself? That's what it should be. You just don't call them brothers in humanity or brothers in same countries or brothers as citizens. He said that's not enough. So this is why I'm trying to relay here. The real religious people who understand the real teaching of every of this Abrahamic religion, they understood that, but unfortunately the misinterpretation and understanding of the view that caused so much damage to the image of every and each of these religions. I am sure you have the same experience.
Steve, is there anything you'd like to add?
No, only that, yes, Head fake. Only that one would hope that the people in the room will take and act on the concept in your own locations with the powers that be, might not be the right word, but with the local people who have the capacity also to help you get this done and begin to metastasize a little bit, moving from this one location into this Portland.
Actually, I'm wondering if Pastor John mentioned we have an interfaith Thanksgiving dinner on the 23rd of this month. Our congregation will come to the church and we celebrate the Thanksgiving Day.
I don't think I can eat that much 2 days in a row.
Yeah, everybody's welcome, that's right. So we'll be in with prayer and then conversation and
I'm going.
shared dinner.
So can we invite members of our community if they like to come and join?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. I'm sorry, I don't have more.
And I'm present at the very opening. I already did, but you might not remember it. So, but if we can reiterate that somewhere in the Presbytery meeting.
About
Yes,
both Thanksgiving services
Yeah, yeah.
that are open to everyone.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good.
Thank you.
Okay.
If you email me or give me your email, I can send you one of those.
Oh, the flyers, okay. Then I can put it in the printed out, I can put it in the same. Yeah.
Thank
All
you.
right. Thank you. Sorry about all the confusing and the time and everything, but actually this really turned out to be really good. I'm glad we had this together and
Yeah.
thank you so much.